In the Isle of Man, they had corporal punishment until 1976. And what type of wood did they administer it with?
Well, I know I'm going to get a buzz on this because it's normally called birching, but it wasn't a birch.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter because the
injustice is anyway.
So did it depend on how bad you'd been? So if you were really bad, it was holly, and they left the leaves on. But if you weren't so bad, it would be like sort of willow fronds, you know, or balsa wood for you. But
Hazel. Yeah, the hazel. In Britain, birching, as it was known, was banned in 1948, but they didn't stop it until the 1970s in the Isle of Man, even though they tried to keep it by saying, all right, well, OK, what about if we let them keep their trousers on?
In America, there is still the tradition in some parts of birthday spanking. So,
really?
Yeah, where you go to school and then because it's your special day, and then there's a special treatment, the teacher takes the pedal out and then you get a few, and some people say, oh, we have to ban it, it's cruel. And then others say, no, we can't, it's a tradition.
Yes.
So they have to carry on trashing the kids. Yes.
Weird.
It's a bit like family Christmas. No one likes it still. Because it's a tradition, everyone has to go through it.
we get the idea of bringing a tree in to the...
That's your idea?
That's a German idea, wasn't it?
Yeah, I don't know. Did we invent Christmas?
Well, a lot of elements of it. Obviously.
Now, I say, come on, either we invented it or we didn't.
Yeah. It's like that terrible joke, which I'm sure you must have been told, about the couple who adopt a German baby. you know it, yes, you must know it.
Is there only one joke that involves a German baby?
It doesn't speak.
It doesn't speak
Another
at
one
all.
where he doesn't speak.
He never speaks.
Yeah.
They have
Until he's about 5.
Yeah.
5.
Want
And
me to
they
say
take
the
him to be
punchline?
tested.
Because they think, is he stupid? Is he deaf and dumb?
Everything functioning normally,
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
And then one day...
One day.
Go on, Alan.
One day.
They give him...
Yeah, then he goes...
He has some
"Matze,
apple strudel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he says...
Matze, this Apfelstrudel is a bit tepid.
And they say, Wolfgang, you've never spoken before. After all these years, now you finally speak. Why haven't you spoken before? And he says...
Up until now, everything had been satisfactory.
It's a great joke. Very
Do you know,
That's like a relay joke.
this is the most fun a Danish person has had with a German since 1940.
Don't mention the war!
Well, there you are.
It's funny, the war. I mean, I have to chip in now. I mean, the war. The war. It's always World War II.
Yeah.
It's never any of the more current ones.
No, that's true.
They go with the war, and everyone in Britain takes personal credit for Britain winning it. Even people that weren't born at the time of World War II, they still take personal credit for Britain winning it. I've personally been a lot more annoyed by the Brits that are now in their 70s, and they bang on about how they helped win the war. I mean, let's quickly do the maths. If you're in your 70s now, how old were you at the end of World War II?
That's true.
Maybe 10 years old? Yeah. How did you help win the war? When you were just 10 years old, you did not help win the war.
By not eating bananas.
Yeah. You were nothing but a drain on British resources.
You've got to admire his guts, haven't you?
Effectively, every 70-year-old Brit effectively fought on the side of Nazi Germany. Lost the war every little bit as much as we did.
Words that I need to check with you, Henning. These are said to be German words, OK? So, Torschlusspanik.
Well, you're not doing it full justice.
Oh, sorry.
Torschlusspanik.
Do you know what it means, door shut panic?
Yeah, Torschlusspanik is if something's all the rage and then you feel like you have to get involved as well, and then you might jump into something, which then quite frequently turns out to your disadvantage.
Brexit.
Yeah. What about this one? Teppichfresser, carpet eater.
Teppichfresser, yeah. That's someone who works really, really hard and constantly exerts themselves. So, and the national football team, you really want 11 Teppichfresser.
Yeah.
Who really go to the absolute limit and beyond.
I love that that's the German attitude to a carpet eater. We would just think it was somebody...
Well, the idea is they've already exerted themselves, so they are on the deck.
Right.
And then they don't give in, but they carry on. Exactly.
Eat in the carpet.
Yeah.
Well, apparently Apparently, it was a nickname for Hitler. Did you know that? I've got a quote about him. It says, whenever he goes on a rampage, he flings himself to the floor and chews the edges of the carpet, hence the Teppichfräser.
Well, that sounds to me like foreign propaganda, to be honest.
I don't want anything in common with Hitler. But now I do.
Yeah. You are both Teppichfräsers.
Yeah.
Rosie, I would say don't worry if you feel as though you've got something in common with Hitler. You know, I'm a vegetarian, Alan's only got one ball.
It's an easy one, so I'll give it randomly to my old friend Sandy. What can you tell me about this chap behind you?
Oh. Well, do you think that the words give it away, or is that going to be unfair? The fact that it says the Puritan.
Well...
That seems unfair.
It does seem unfair, doesn't it?
It's a horrible start to think.
Because what it is the 19th century idea of a Puritan, and in fact the 19th century idea of a Puritan, which we retain to this day, is completely inaccurate. The steeple hat and those sort of clothing, absolutely no evidence whatsoever.
Well, they wore a
like
beanie
that.
hat normally, did they? And
They wore ordinary clothes like anybody else,
Yes.
but if they were having their portraits taken, they usually wore their Sunday best, which tended to be black.
So he's not a Puritan at all?
He's a 19th century idea of a Puritan. You were right to say he was a Puritan because it says on it, the Puritan.
I was merely reading.
And I was being unjust, and you've lost 10 points. But it doesn't matter because you've already won.
Yeah.
So...
Do you know, I'm quite relaxed about the whole show.
Exactly. Now, what can you tell me about the Puritans in America?
They went over on the Mayflower. I keep expecting the thing to go off again.
Yeah.
They didn't go on the Mayflower.
No, the great American myth, if you like, is the Puritans arrived on the Mayflower. And they came to avoid religious persecution. In fact, they came in order to be able to persecute.
Yeah, but they hated the Quakers.
What they objected to was the religious freedom in England that meant that you could have all kinds of ranges of religion. And yes, and in 1660, they hanged a woman just for being a Quaker.
Yeah, Mary Dyer.
That's right,
Yeah.
the very one. Obviously, many people did come to America to avoid persecution in other lands, but the idea that Puritans came to avoid persecution is they came to persecute. Yeah. They wanted to build a country in which there could be no dissent from Puritanism.
Puritans, they regarded luxury as sinful, didn't they?
Yes.
So, and some of them set off to America and the others opened B&Bs in Britain.
Hey!
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. B&Bs, breakfast until 7. Don't call it B&B, just call it B. If you've got no intention of serving breakfast, don't call it B&B.
Do you know, I once did a trip. I sailed all the way around Britain, and we finally got to Northumbria, and on the coastline there was a house that had painted on the side. It said, bed and breakfast, hot and cold water. I thought, only in this country would you feel you must advertise that you have both.
Oh, yes. Pride.
No, it used to be hot and cold running water. It's not just a bucket of it lying there. No, there's pipes and everything.
In this painting, did the native there on the left, did he bring that tree to hide behind? Because it looked...
He doesn't look happy.
And it does the wrong way around.
Yeah, he can see which way the wind is blowing.
I think he knows what's coming, doesn't he?
It's true, Stephen, that the Puritans weren't on the Mayflower. They always say they landed at Plymouth Rock, but in fact it was Provincetown, so none of it is actually true.
I'm afraid, it's a myth. Every country likes to build up a sort of legend of its own foundation.
Thank you for watching.
Cricketer Thomas White invent in 1771?
The Yorker.
The Yorker?
Yeah.
To hear a German say the Yorker... gives
I don't know what it means.
It's a fully pitched up ball, but it's well good. Great to hear a German.
What's googly then?
Yeah.
Googly is...
And again...
A googly is a leg spinner's off spin. It's disguised. It's
Comes
very
on the back
complicated.
And how does the Duck vs. Lewis method work?
Oh, nobody knows that. That's far too complicated. No, he didn't invent any particular type of bowling or of batting, but he looked at the laws of cricket and he noted that there was a rather glaring omission, and he thought he thought, splendid.
Oh, the big bat. Did he have the big bat?
Yes, he came with a bat that was wider than the wicket. This enormous bat. It was Chertsey versus Hambledon, which is the equivalent of Surrey versus Hampshire. So after 1774, they incorporated a law that said a bat must be no wider than 4.5 inches. But this fellow, Thomas White, I suppose you could call him a cheat, but he was within the laws of the game as they were at the time. And there were others. There's an American footballer called Lester Hayes. Does that ring any bells with you? Of the Oakland Raiders, who had such success as a catcher in the late 70s that he was the Defensive Player of the Year. But the reason was that he covered his hands and gloves with an adhesive called Stickum. And he actually admitted, he said, without Stickum, I couldn't catch a cold in Antarctica.
But that's so clearly cheating. They must have spotted
Well,
that.
there was no rule against
There was no rule.
it. They had to introduce one, which there now is. There was a jockey at Belmont in New York who, in 1923, died of a heart attack when on a horse and won. That the horse won.
Oh, right.
And, of course, the bookies didn't want to pay out. But there was a rule that said the jockey had to be in the saddle for it. There was no rule that said he had to be alive.
Well, he was a brilliant jockey, then, if he clung on even though he was dead.
Exactly. Pretty amazing.
Keep going!
So the lucky punters were paid out. Cricketer Thomas White invent in 1771?
The Yorker.
The Yorker?
Yeah.
To hear a German say the Yorker...
I don't know what it means.
It's a fully pitched up ball, but it's well good. Great to hear
What's
a German
googly then?
Yeah.
Googly is
And again,
a googly is a leg spinner's off spin. It's disguised. It's
Comes
very
out the back of your
and
complicated.
how does the Duckworth Lewis method work?
Oh, nobody knows that. That's far too complicated. No, he didn't invent any particular type of bowling or of batting, but he looked at the laws of cricket and he noted that there was a rather glaring omission, and he thought he thought, splendid.
Oh, with a big bat. Did he have a
Yes,
big
he
bat?
came with a bat that was wider than the wicket. This enormous bat. It was Chertsey versus Hambledon, which is the equivalent of Surrey versus Hampshire. So after 1774, they incorporated a law that said a bat must be no wider than 4.5 inches. But this fellow, Thomas White, I suppose you could call him a cheat, but he was within the laws of the game as they were at the time. And there were others. There's an American footballer called Lester Hayes. Does that ring any bells with you? Of the Oakland Raiders, who had such success as a catcher in the late 70s that he was the Defensive Player of the Year. But the reason was that he covered his hands and gloves with an adhesive called Stickum. And he actually admitted, he said, without Stickum, I couldn't catch a cold in Antarctica.
But that's so clearly cheating. They must have spotted
Well,
that.
there was no rule against
There was no rule.
They had to introduce one, which there now is. There was a jockey at Belmont in New York who, in 1923, died of a heart attack when on a horse and won. That the horse won.
Oh, right.
And, of course, the bookies didn't want to pay out. But there was a rule that said the jockey had to be in the saddle for it. There was no rule that said he had to be alive.
Well, he was a brilliant jockey, then, if he clung on even though he was dead.
Exactly. Pretty amazing.
Keep going!
So the lucky punters... Well...